This is Straight Talk with Enlivening Greg Penn, the Preacher Man, and his sidekick Shannon Jones. Frank discussions of issues affecting the ATL, Fulton County, the state of Georgia, the nation, and around the world. And now, here they are, live and in living color, the team of Jones and Fan, the Preacher Man.
Well, welcome tonight to Straight Talk, or night of the day, whenever you may be viewing again. To Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fan, the Preacher Man. As we go into tonight, talk about the Epstein again. What's going on? What's really behind it? What's really going on with this Epstein case? What's really going on? Brothers and sisters, we need to stay on this, and we need to continue to talk about what's going on. We need for you to stay with us. Listen, Shannon and I and Ron will be on the other side after Miss C. Don't you go nowhere. Don't forget to like us. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to make comments. And don't forget to share. If you want to be on the program, all you got to do is put Straight Talk News 1362@gmail.com, and Cynthia will get you on, and you have news and information. She will certainly make those announcements for you. Now let's go to Cynthia. Cynthia?
Hi, Miss C here with your 3-minute news blast, or more or less. Hey, Bishop Greg. Hey, Pastor Shannon. Hope you all are doing well today. Well, listen, I've got some information that I want to tell you about. And I want to start out by telling you, as part of our Women's Day celebration in September, the women of Flipper Temple AME Church at 580 Atlanta Student Movement Boulevard in Atlanta invites you to their Praise and Sip, going to be happening August the 23rd at noon. And if you'd like to participate, call the church at 404-522-5020 by August 16th. This event is free, but you do need to RSVP, okay? Now, come out and enjoy Jazzin' on the Ranch. That's going to happen September 6th from 5 to 11 p.m. Showtime is at 7 p.m. at the Smith Family Ranch, 1950 East Atlanta Road in Stockbridge, Georgia. There will be line dancing, a hula hoop contest, and prizes for the most creative Western outfit. They're looking for you to have on your hat and your boots, and they want you to bring your fans. And you can also, they'd like for you to bring your food and beverage and your hand fans. And you can also bring a tent if you like a 10 by 10, though, 10 by 10 size tent. Now, if you want more information, call them at 404-434-2299, and they'll give you full details. Adrian Woods and the Moral Support Band and DJ Samsonite will be special guests. Pastor Shannon Jones, our own Pastor Shannon Jones, and the Gathering Church. Now, at the Gathering Church, there's real people, real talk, real church. They invite you to worship every Sunday at 11 a.m. The Gathering is located at 3707 Main Street in College Park. You can check them out online at www.thegatheringatl.org. That's thegatheringatl.org. They stream their services live also on their website. You can get in touch with them by calling 443-312-9015. Now listen, before we go, there are 4 things I'd like for you to do. I'd like for you to like us, subscribe to us, and those little buttons appear right there on the screen. And number 3, I'd like for you to comment. Leave us some comments. Let us know how we're doing. And also share us. Tell everybody what you know. Okay. Let them know about Straight Talk News with Greg Fan, the Preacher Man, and Pastor Shannon Jones. Okay. And in the meantime and in between time, till we see you again, may the Lord God bless you real good. Bye now.
My co-host Shannon Jones and Ron, who is becoming a regular. He's becoming a regular on the program. And thank you, Ron, for joining us again tonight on Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fan, the Preacher Man, and Shannon E. Jones. Hey, Shannon, stop drinking on the job, man. Stop drinking on the job.
Hey, man, it's Friday. TGIF.
Drinking on the job. Well, since it's water, we'll allow for that. But
Allegedly.
but you can't use the excuse it's hot outside because it's not hot outside. But you've been running back and forth, to and fro from well, anyway. But let's get right into our topic and discussion. You know, this Epstein thing is not going away. It's not going away, and it shouldn't go away. It shouldn't go away with child molesters. When we got all of this, kids being kidnapped and kids being taken and sold, and people pimping out our young people, and all the stuff that's going on with our young people. And then we have people with billions and billions of dollars that's just taking young people and using them for their own pleasure. And messing up young lives. So this topic is a topic that we're going to talk about some more tonight, Shannon. I'm going to let you jump in, and then Ron, I'm going to call on you and jump. You know how I go from Ron to Shannon to Ron first, and tonight we're going to start off with Shannon, talking about what's going on in your mind, Shannon, with this Epstein case. What's going on in your mind?
Well, I just think that it's very important that we continue to watch this case. First of all, billionaires are global individuals. You will very rarely find a local billionaire. In other words, that's not in some type of business that has them globally connected at a very high level. And it's a club of sorts. Donald Trump has for many years fancied himself that he was a part of it, but actually the numbers show that he did not actually cross that line significantly, meaning that he was worth at least 1.9 to $2 billion until the Truth Social public offering came out, and his friends centered around the election supported him and crossed him over that line. I'm saying that to say that this case is not perhaps only about sex trafficking, but it has other tentacles. And you just got to watch what all is going on. The president came into office with 34 felonies. And in coming into office with 34 felonies, he brought in his personal attorney, Todd, goodness, I can't think of his name right now. His other personal attorney, Pamela Bondi. Todd Blanche, thank you. Pamela Bondi, who was an attorney, a personal attorney of his, and one other attorney that's a deputy in the Department of Justice.
I said last week. Now, Beauvais, don't forget Beauvais. Now, Beauvais, who's been appointed to be a judge, a federal court judge. So he brought in a lot of his personal attorneys, people who have worked on his cases. So I don't want you to forget Beauvais, because he's elevating him to a judgeship, a lifetime judgeship.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there is a deputy FBI director. Okay, before I say this about Dan Bongino, Epstein was killed on August of 2019. Trump was president. The big case against Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell was brought by a young lady by the name of Virginia Giuffre, but it was actually, her name was Virginia Roberts. That was her married name. Giuffre is her married name, but Roberts was her name. And you might remember that there was a case that Prince Andrew, who was fourth or fifth in line for the throne, was allegedly she was given to him for sexual pleasures. Now, it just came out the other day that this young lady worked at the Trump's Mar-a-Lago, and she worked in the spa. We don't know what she did in the spa. She could have been doing towels and whatnot. She could have been a massage prep. She could have been doing massages. We don't know. But Trump says that that she was stolen from Mar-a-Lago. All right, she was stolen from Mar-a-Lago. Now I want you to put a pin right there. And I want you to go back now to I told you about the 3 attorneys, but then there is a deputy attorney. There's a deputy director of the FBI. His job is to run the day-to-day operations of the FBI. His name is Dan Bongino. He's a former United States Secret Service officer, agent, He protected Bush, he protected W. He protected Obama. And I believe he protected a bit of Trump, and he might have even had a bit of Clinton at the end. So, but nothing with the FBI. But Trump puts him in because he is a podcaster that's talking about the deep state and talking about the Epstein case. Now, he's deputy director of the FBI, which is the investigating agency for the Department of Justice, the senior investigating, the most superior investigating. And he's saying that the tapes need to be released. Now, the files need to be released, and the tapes and whatever information. Now, why would he want the files to be released? Given that we already know that Trump has played, that he is an actor in a lot of that material of the Epstein case. And I really believe that there is a schism within MAGA. They say Bongino is going to be leaving and going back to his podcast. There's a schism in MAGA. And the schism that is in MAGA is really exposing the truth of what Trump has done. In other words, Trump's movement was not about toothless white men and women. It wasn't about poor whites. It was first and foremost the urgency of staying out of prison. And then secondly, it was about empowering the 1% that basically propped him up and put him there. So we have to continue to watch the case because there's more there than we know, and he's stopping at nothing. Now we're talking about a Russian. Now we're talking about a Russia summit that's getting ready to happen with Putin, and perhaps Zelensky will not be invited to it, so that becomes big news. And so now all the news agencies are dealing with that. Then on the other side, there's this concern that Gaza is getting ready to be taken over by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, at the behest of Prime Minister Netanyahu, a ruthless war criminal. Okay, so then you have that situation. So all of these things are going on to take your attention off of the fact that this Epstein case is the thing that ultimately can bring the house down. This Epstein case is a Watergate within itself, and I think that there's a portion of MAGA that is prepared to even kill the king because they needed Trump to get in, but they know that he can't govern beyond 4 years, that he's absolutely finished. So as a term-limited president, they have to move in another direction. 2 more things, and then I want to hear from you, Bishop, and Ron. 2 more things. Why did the president's former personal attorney, the deputy attorney general who runs the day-to-day of the Department of Justice, get on a plane and fly to Florida to depose or to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter of Robert Maxwell, a billionaire himself who was killed in a British billionaire that owned several media. He had a media conglomerate. He was killed in a quote-unquote off of his yacht. He drowned. Ghislaine Maxwell, an aide-de-camp to Epstein, is in a meeting with the number 2 person at Justice and the president's former attorney for an 8-hour meeting day 1. Then he stays in town, and there's another 8 to 9-hour meeting day 2. And then she's moved from the Florida facility that she's in, which was considered a low security facility, and put into a camp in Texas that is even more than that. It's like a minimum security situation. That's one thing. The last thing that I want to bring to your attention is that there was a meeting, did you know, on this last Wednesday. And in this meeting, it was at the Vice President's residence, the Naval Observatory. And it was a dinner to discuss the Epstein situation and all of the divisiveness that is happening between Pamela Bondi, Kash Patel, the FBI director, Dan Bongino, the deputy director, and several others that are in the Department of Justice. And two high-level FBI agents were fired this week. One of them was the former acting director of the FBI, fired without cause this week, and several others are being rounded up, quote unquote, because they investigated January the 6th. So the Epstein case has several tentacles, and it's something that we cannot let it go, because that, I believe, is the unraveling. As Watergate was for Nixon, I believe that this is the unraveling of not just Trump, but I think it's the unraveling of a core group led by Steve Bannon and others that talked about a deep state, but ultimately want to control the executive and the Congress and the Supreme Court for the next 15 years.
All right, Ron, you want to respond? You want to respond, Ron, and then I'll give my response if you want to jump in on that. Ron.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, there you go.
Thank you, Bishop. And Shannon has really set the table to discuss the real context and depth of the Epstein situation when, Shannon places responsibility and looking at this as a critique of the top 1%. He's 100% correct. Was very interesting. About 15 years ago, there was a wealthy teenager in the state of Texas who was driving drunk and struck a car driven by a mother and 3 of her children, and they all were lost. And he pled the case of affluenza. He argued legally that because he is of a higher income class and a higher bracket, that it is now somehow he's unable to abide by the rules and standards and morals that govern the rest of society. And this Jeffrey Epstein saga is a case of affluenza in which the top 1%, through their control over the means of production of transportation, real estate, government, and economics, have so segregated themselves from the rest of society that they can create for themselves island paradises of pedophilia and child molestation and sex trafficking in full view of the public. And the public, we invest into their scheme by holding these individuals in the highest of regard. If you make it into the top 1% by hook and by crook, which is typically the route that you have to go to amass that amount of capital, then the public, to justify our greed and decadence and desire to assume that amount of wealth and gratification, we whitewash the entire history and context by which these individuals amass their political influence, amass their economic influence. And so we have the confluence of status, power, and race. It is also overwhelmingly, staggeringly obvious about how many of these men are white men, that the standard of morals for European descended males is so low And we as a society have such an appetite to forgive their wanton disregard for the sanctity of the innocence of childhood. We have a high degree of tolerance for their absolute disdain against the plight of working families as they continue to siphon trillions of dollars out of the economic system that they freeze in IRAs, that they freeze in mutual funds, that they freeze in these money silos. All the while the political system continues to advance to us working class people a faulty trickle down economics theory in which we overinvest public money into the top 1% under the faulty guise that enriching them beyond belief will have an effect of them investing into the economic system, and that having a waterfall and downriver effect for the middle class, working class, and impoverished class. That has been a 500-year disgusting lie that has enriched kings, that has enriched presidents, that has enriched financiers like Jeffrey Epstein, who likely made his money because there's still mysterious circumstances around how he made his money, which lends the fact that he's likely making a lot of this money from the illicit sale of children to billionaires, to kings, to dignitaries all around this world. It drops our immorality and our tolerance for crime at our doorstep. And while Shannon is absolutely correct in saying these are the actions of the top 1%, the rest of the 99%, we have got to check ourselves and give ourselves an honest and thorough investigation for why these type of individuals who repeatedly show us they are morally repugnant, and they repeatedly show us they have a consistent disregard for rule of law, for precedents of law, and for any other standard that governs our life, while we go out of our way to lift them up, to continue to digest their lives as symbols and emblems that we seek to replicate, that we continue to take Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and what's the guy that's Tesla who was head of Doge?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
We can, no matter how odd these individuals look, no matter how many indicators that they give us that they are out of touch with the mission of God and why he created this universe, we continue to focus on them. You cannot look at television in this society without being inundated with images of Trump. His words are everywhere. This man is nonsensically on a roof on the top of the White House shouting random statements at the media. I mean, this level of incompetence and a complete flouting of the mores and values and the traditions of what it means to be president. He's a difficult man to look at with his body shape and his hairstyle, and we have just plastered that image as the embodiment of manhood, as the definition of success. You can't listen to a rap song over the last 20-25 years that when these brothers are trying to talk about flossing money and living a big time lifestyle, the first name that they go to is Donald Trump. We have to disinvest our interest, our time, and our esteem into these pariahs. These are predators. This is the bottom of the barrel. And so when we are trying to get our heads around how to fix this system, it is going to take us as the people to develop the political will and the spiritual will to hold these men accountable by law and to assess the consequences of their behavior. Until we do that, we will be unable to set a standard that will protect our children, that will reinvest our money, and give us the type of society that is representative of the dignity of human life and the quality that it means to be alive.
Well, you know, Ron, I tell you and Shannon have said a lot. You don't leave very much for me to say. Because I totally agree with both of you guys, because actually, really, when we look at our history, and as we look at the history and look at how things have continued to, Solomon says, nothing new under the sun, according to the word of God, there's nothing new. We know these things, but yet we continue to pattern ourselves and do these things over and over again. And though we know better, but we don't do better. We don't do better because of the fact that we think we want to get rich. We want to be in that same pool or that same posture in them. But we're not going to break that ceiling. They're not going to let us be millionaires. And even those that come through that ceiling that make millions or become a millionaire or billionaire, they bring them down. P. Diddy is one of them. And that's the first of many. That so many have already went that way. And we can go to even Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby, they did it to Bill Cosby. Every time that we look and we think that we're raising that ceiling, no. I mean, they're going to bring you back down. And if you're doing things to really help people, genuinely help people, they definitely going to bring you down. Our political system is set up where we're vultures. We eat cannibals. We eat each other. Because we buy into the narrative that you're doing good, but I can't let you do good because, you know, I'm not doing anything, but you doing stuff. It's like, and I'll take it for instance, like with Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett she's very vocal. She's saying real stuff. She's bringing out real issues. She's standing up on the issues. But we have so many others that's silent. But then you got those that are in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party who trying to tear her down, trying to character assassinate her, trying to make her seem like she's a big mouth. She's a big mouth. Her mouth too big. She needs to shut up. You got Clarence Thomas trying to shut her mouth. Then she doesn't shut his mouth. You know, I mean, but the reality of it is that we won't stand up for what's right, and we know what's right, and we know what's right. When you got someone to say, tell us for years and years and years, Ron and Shannon and Ron, that no man is above the law. No man is above the law. And then you turn right around and you say, well, there's one. The president of the United States is above the law as long as he is the president of the United States. Well, Nixon, you mentioned Watergate, Shannon. Nixon and Watergate. This is a Watergate. Nixon and Watergate. When it came out that Nixon had done the things they had done, they said, okay, Nixon said, well, I'll go ahead and resign so I don't have to go to jail for committing a crime. And we make jail for it. And that's going to something, Shannon, what you leading to in terms of Vance and becoming the president of the United States. Because if Gerald Ford became the president of the United States, why? Because Nixon resigned. Why? Because he was the vice president of the United States. The whole setup, as I see the scheme, is Donald Trump is coming down. He's coming down. He's like London Bridge is falling down. He's coming down because this one incident. And we're going to talk about the Democratic Party and this whole thing about redistricting and everything. But the issue the Democratic Party should stay on and continue to stay on is very issue we're talking about right now in terms of what's going on with these billionaires. Because he's not the only one. You said it, Ron, you said it accurately. You're right. Epstein made his money off of billionaires. He got with a billionaires and they plotted a scheme. Him and Maxwell got together. They were partners. They plotted the scheme as to how they were going to get these young girls and how they were going to make more and more money because sex sales. Let's be clear. Sex sales. It's sales. And you got these men who got these weird fantasies and all these other things. They got all this money and they don't know what to do with this money. So they're spending money with this man that bring us these little young girls, bring us girls, bring us women. Young, it don't make no difference, black, white, it doesn't Asian, it doesn't make any, just bring us women so we can do our thing with these women. We'll pay you. We'll pay you because we'll burn up $400 or $500 on lighting a cigar because we got the money. But you hungry, you outdoors, you don't have money for your bill, but the government keep giving these contracts to people that are billionaires and millionaires, and black people can't even get these contracts, even in our own state of Georgia, and we've been fighting this for years. How much money do black people put in this state in terms of taxes and what have you, but we can't get black business to get business in with the state, not even to sell toilet tissue or paper towels. I mean, we've been fighting that for years. When Reverend Love was living, we got the largest black caucuses in the whole country. But we can't move the needle to get anything done, but the money keep going back to these same, I'm not going to call them names, when people talking about, we talking about their companies, but these same companies, and many of you know the name of these companies, that are still pouring asphalt, who are still pouring cement, who are still doing these things. I mean, over and over again, they get these contracts, but when you say contracts supposed to be bidded out, and this contract still going to these same companies, something is wrong with that. Something is wrong with that. And Ron, you and Shannon, you're on point because it's a billionaire society. It's a billionaire society, and the billionaires are the ones that's doing the things that they're doing. And I'm going to, I'm going to stop at this point, is that when we talked about this Fast Standard Labor Act, and these billionaires are the ones that's pushing for the Fast Standard Labor Act to change. If you think that senator, whoever he is, that congressman came with that idea came up from their think tank. Hey, let's look at how we can do away with unions, and how we can get people working for contract and making them contract employees with no benefits, no sick leave, no insurance, no nothing. They just work for what you get, and then at the end of the day, you got to put some money aside for your own pension. You got to put money in your own Social Security. We're not paying in Social Security. We're not paying in the pension. We're not paying in the return. None of that we're paying. And you're going to have to work. And when we pay you, you got to pay your own taxes on it. And that is going to hurt this workforce. These people are working because the billionaires continue to get more money on the backs of people like us. There is no middle class anymore. Where's the middle class? Where is the middle class? Somebody speak to that. Where are they?
Well, Bishop, before you switch, because I know you're getting ready to switch, let me just say this to bring this to a close tonight. Many people talk about the movie The Godfather.
Excuse me, but where are the billionaires, though, Shannon? Just tell me where the billionaires. And then we can go on and...
You said, where are the billionaires?
Where are they? Where are the billionaires? That's the question.
The billionaires are all around. What do you mean, where are they? They're all around. You mean, where's their voice?
Yeah, where are their voice? That's what I'm saying. Where are their voice?
Oh, man, they're not going to say anything. Ron said something that made a lot of sense, and I want to tie this in. Many people talk about the movie The Godfather, but they haven't read the book. In the book, the first page of the book, it says at the beginning of any fortune is a crime. So any family, entities, anybody is a crime. And no billionaire remains a billionaire for the thing that made them a billionaire. Then once you get into that grouping, then you're connected to so many other things globally that connects. In other words, Tyler Perry doesn't have to do another movie. He doesn't need a studio to stay a billionaire. His investments are now in oil and gas and in conflict diamonds and all kind of stuff that money that is invested into. Don't think that the Epstein case is only about sex. Don't follow the sex. Follow the files. Follow the information in the files. Trump said Clinton went 27 times to the island. Well, someone just put out that he went 37 times to the island on his plane or on other planes. And Snoops is trying to check that out right now to see if that's true. The reality of it is whether he did that or not, the Epstein, the problem with what he's in the files for may not have anything to do with the sex aspect of it, but the funding of that island and the funding of other deals that fed back into the sex and fed back into other stuff. And you better believe that there's a direct line between Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell's father's money, and Putin and the Russian oligarchs. You better believe that that's in there, and all of that's in the files, and there's an old shucks moment going on with his boys that he put in there, because they're looking at the files and they're seeing that homeboy lied about everything. He lied about this, everything that he's ever, if he's talking, he's lying.
He's lying.
And 47% of the people said that they wouldn't switch parties. Hear this. They said that. So they said 40. They reported that 47% of MAGA people said that they would support Donald Trump even if he was implicated in the sex. That was not the question of the sample. The sampling poll was this: would you switch parties? And they said that they would stay with their party. And with their party is to stay with J.D. Vance, who has been very quiet, when he was able to pull together this meeting. What kind of, the Donald Trump I knows, he brings everybody to his table. What are they doing over at the vice president's table? And he's meeting up. Why is that? Because there's a quiet power saying, we've seen the files, we know where this trajectory is getting ready to go, and we have to we have to distance J.D. Vance from Trump so that we can build a machine around Vance and move forward. Just watch. Just watch.
Shannon, that's the same thing that I'm saying in terms of Watergate. The reality of it is Vance is their position in Vance to become the president of the United States. Because Donald Trump finna come down. He's finna come down. It's just a matter of time, but he's finna come down, because this Epstein case and is going to take Donald Trump down. This is the only thing, and Ron, I'm going to let you speak. This is the only thing that Trump has not been able to squash. But everything else he's trying to create, that Epstein thing, the case of the Epstein is still live. He keeps talking, the man is dead. Why are we still talking about Epstein? We're not talking about Epstein, the man who dead. We're talking about the man Epstein who lives, who did the things he did, that you partner with him to do those things. So that's what we're talking about. So you can't change the narrative for us, because you are a pedophile. We know you're a pedophile. You know, we know that you are a pedophile because the things you're doing, the moves that you're making, sending your attorney to go and talk to Maxwell, and then after your attorney talks to Maxwell now saying you were never involved in anything. Really? I mean, we stupid. I mean, do you think the American people that stupid? Really? I mean, really? I mean, real for real? I mean, come on now. Come on.
No, we are that accepting. We would accept that. We would accept that justification. I mean, we've accepted the justification that you can emancipate 4 million informal enslaved laborers without giving them a stitch of land, without, remunerating them any income that was stolen by their employers and reinvested in the founding of many of the banks and institutions that make up Wall Street right now. We've accepted that justification for 200 years. Why would we refuse to accept it? We accepted a bailout justification for GM, for Chrysler in 2009, while millions of Americans were being kicked out of their homes when the bubble burst in the financial crisis, and yet billionaires flew up to DC on their private plane and took home $5 trillion of public money, most of which has still yet to be repaid back to the federal government. And are there any attempts to get that money back? I mean, I want us as a society to be very clear on what our political will actually is and what we are willing to enforce. Because we are really looking at a nihilistic threat in a lot of different ways. The military-industrial complex is putting us at a point that a war that tips the scale ecologically with the devastation that comes from the weapons that we've been able to amass while children go hungry and while the elderly go without medicine. Many times we have trillions of dollars invested in these silos currently. Ecologically, we have the Trump administration now stating publicly that there are minimal effects of climate change. He's absolutely made climate denial a national policy for United States ecological and environmental organizations. Where's the uproar on that? That we have put our young people squarely in the vice grip in the next 50 years. And so if we believe that something cataclysmic is not on the horizon, I think we are really trying to do everything that we can to maintain our illusion that everything's okay, at least for the way that we live right now. I think there has to be.
Let me say this. I think you're right about that because we're comfortable. But I think that there's a bubble that's about to bust, Ron. I really feel that there's a bubble that's about to bust because people are waking up to what's going on. People are not naive. That's what I'm saying. People are not naive now like they used to be. I mean, it was naivety, but the stuff is coming home because when you now having problems getting your food stamps, you're now having problems in terms of your health care. You're now having problems in terms of educating your kids. I mean, all these things, that bubble is about to bust. I see it's like a what they call a boil. It's like a boil. It's coming to a head. It's about to bust, man. I mean, it's about to bust. And I think this Epstein case is that turning point for us in terms of it's boiling. That bubble's about to bust. Because all that stuff you talking about in terms of, climate control and those kinds of things, we've heard those things. But the message has not come through in terms of people believing it. It's like that thing, you don't believe the fire burn until you stick your hand in it. I think people don't stick their hand in it now, and they feel that heat, Ron. They feel that heat. So it's about to bust. It's about to bust. It's just what do we do when it busts? What do we do? How do we react to it? How are we going to come out better for it after it busts? Because when you got a boil and it busts, it bothers you, and then when it busts, what's the healing after it busts? How are we going to come out of it and be better for it being burst? So if you can just kind of detail some of that stuff that you're talking about in terms of how it will be better for us and how it can be better for us once this ball busts.
We got to reinvest at the community level. Local politics, becoming self-sufficient, understanding that building relationships with those around you and gaining a sense of control over your means of production is the best way to fortify yourself against what is some type of impending threat that is looking to be placed upon us by the actions of folks who have amassed so much that they are living by a different standard. So valuing a lot of things that we have kind of put to the side so that we can enjoy, the benefits and luxuries and I think we can still enjoy relationships at the local level and gaining control over food production, over our education, over where we live outside of these multinational conglomerates. I mean, Bishop, even shelter. When you look at the housing market in America, we have corporate conglomerates and absentee landlords buying up larger and larger amounts of property. Single family homes are not going to young couples who are getting married. These are being gobbled up by large real estate institutions. So the structure of how we live and meet our basic needs in this day and age, they are largely controlled by a minimal amount of people. And I think this is the first time in human history that we can conclusively argue that a lot of the means of our information, look at how many media conglomerates have been consolidated and merging over the last 10 and 15 years So the ways that we communicate, the ways that we get information, how we get our food, how we get our employment, how we maintain the value of our money, all of these things are largely controlled by a smaller and smaller and smaller group of people who continue to further insulate themselves more and more. And so when we look at the condition of people outside of that cabal, what are our abilities to provide for ourselves? If we did have to rely on each other, if you did have to rely on your neighbor, Shannon, if you did have to rely on your neighbor, Bishop, are you confident that we have the relationships and the desire to support each other in a way that we become self-sufficient and independent from what they got planned for us? Is that something that we feel comfortable in saying now? I certainly would love to know how y'all feel on that point.
Oh, well, I'll tell you this. Most people don't even know their neighbor. They don't speak to their neighbor, right? So let's be clear, about that. For me, I feel comfortable with my neighbors where I am because we do some sharing. It's not like, and this is something that happened. My neighbor, next door neighbor, I have next door neighbor, two of them. My neighbor, my wife is in the store. She's buying the groceries, and my neighbor see her in the store, and she said, "I got that. I'll pay for that today." I'm just saying is because we're neighbors and we do things for each other, not that we needed her to do it, but she had a desire to want to do it. But it starts with people getting to know their neighbor and getting to work with their neighbor. And that's my experience in terms. And my other next door neighbor, same thing. We share. I had a little garden when I got my tomatoes and stuff. I took tomatoes to them and took tomatoes to them and took tomatoes to, I did those kinds of things. So she felt, obliged to do that reciprocal, I would call it reciprocal favor by doing that for my wife, but I think there are parts of us that do that, but not nearly enough. But when we're forced, when we were forced to do that, we did that. And we're coming back to that point when I talk about that bubble. When that bubble busts, we're going to be forced to do that, to be looking out for our neighbor and co-oping. And you have communities right now that have community gardens where people are doing those kinds of things. So I think that the more things happen, the more that bubble busts, the more you'll see people doing those things with their neighbors and their community and getting involved in what's going on in their community, not because of a scandal, but because of a need. That's what I.
Well, crisis will produce the need. It's like 9/11. Everybody came together. It's like COVID. People, began to put on masks and try to do what they could do distancing. So I believe that the crisis of this 1% white privilege crushing poor whites and blacks and working class and middle class and crushing them together, bringing them together is going to create an organic movement of sorts that's centered around not a kumbaya of we just love each other, but centered around the shared reality of the marginalization and the oppression that is being forced upon those who knowingly and unknowingly are experiencing it at the same time. So that's the reality.
I hope y'all are right. I hope y'all are right.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it is happened through a test of time that people, when there's a crisis, people come together, and they do. They meet that need at that time, and they do. And I don't think that God has left us not to have that kind of caring heart or that caring spirit We'll have some still out there that, they got their harvest, they got their stuff all for themselves, but then we know what happened to those individuals, because those individuals end up going without, really. They were storing up for themselves, but they end up going out because they isolate themselves from everybody else. So if we stay together as men of God, and we are men of God, the three of us, all three of us are men of God, and we believe in God. We believe God has not brought us to this point, or to this point, not to take us through the times that we're going to be faced with, but it's our job to be able to do just like we're doing now, making people aware of what the crisis is that's about to come, because that's all we're doing. We just tell them about the crisis that is about to come. We're like Daniel in the Bible. we just telling them about what's going to happen. We see it. The Word of God teaches us these things. It tells us these things are going to happen, but we're letting people know, and we're preparing. And those that have ears to hear, they're going to hear. And when that time comes, they'll be able to do what they need to do for themselves and the family, just like you just said. Because and I see more people having gardens now. I see more people doing things that they normally wouldn't have been doing. I see people buying mason jars and looking at YouTube trying to figure out how to can and preserve and all that stuff. I mean, it's coming. It's coming because people are going to be prepared, preparing themselves for what is possibly going to be happening during this time that we're dealing with during this dispensation. Shannon, you want to say something, and then we're going to close it out.
Well, yeah, just on that point, the white folk in my community, the Indians and the Latinos in my community, at one point when I moved into it, they didn't really speak more than throwing up their hand. And then Amazon showed up, and Walmart showed up. And they say they're getting ready to build these warehouses and all this stuff. I ain't never had so many pernils and quiches and potatoes and all kind of stuff that I could not even pronounce. And so many come to this house for this meeting and this meeting. We have to all stick together. After all, we're neighbors. And then I went to a place of driving down my street, and folk weren't throwing up their hand, but darn near running into the street to stop my car to have a 30-minute conversation about what's going on and who do we know politically and how can we connect. Now, I'm under no illusion that they all of a sudden began to love me. But what happened was it was a shared interest. And that shared interest came out of the crisis, and they needed my voice and some others to be able to strategize and to help. And since then, we have become extremely neighborly. But still, even that blockade is to be on guard for personal property. So we got to keep our Dick Gregory hats on, y'all. We can't look at what's being said to us. We got to dig deep, and we got to continue to do our research, and we got to know that these people hide in plain sight. And it's straight talk. We don't let you know what they're doing right before your eyes.
In plain sight. And you see it, and you don't believe it, but believe what you see, because what you're seeing is reality. We thank you so much for joining us tonight with Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fenn, the Preacher Man, and Shannon Jones. And our special guest, I'll tell you, getting to be a regular around. His name is Ronald Allen. He's a community organizer, and we enjoy coming to be a part of our program each and every week. And, of course, we got a lot of more talking we do. We didn't get to the topic about this, what's going on with the Democrats and all of that, and with the drawing the lines and all the stuff that they're doing and on the TV and all of the things that they're doing, trying to raise the itch. We didn't talk about Tim Duncan, who is now leaving the Republican Party because he is not feeling it. He's up there with Adams, who left the Republican Party and who endorsed Kamala Harris in the presidential race. And then we haven't heard from you guys know I'm talking talking about the man, what's the name's daughter in Arkansas. Man,
Huckabee.
not
Huckabee.
Huckabee. No, I'm not about Huckabee. I'm talking about the one who was definitely a part of the January 6th committee along with Adams. Her name escaped me right now. Her dad was the vice president, Republican vice president.
Liz Cheney.
Liz Cheney. I mean, you got people. Wyoming. Thank you. I said Arkansas. I mean Wyoming. But you got people who are moving away from this food. That's why I said the bubble, the boil is about to bust. So stay tuned to this program, Straight Talk, with your truly great fan and preacher man again, Shannon E. Jones, and Ronald Allen. Until next week, this ain't been nothing but what? Straight
Talk.
Want to be a guest on Straight Talk? Email Greg Fan at FANN922@Comcast.net or call 404-308-0795. Join us again for another episode of Straight Talk with Shannon Jones and Greg Fan, the preacher.